My name is Blair Williams. We're here today, May 16th, 2022 at the Carlisle County Historical Society. And if everyone can just go around and introduce themselves.
I'm Mark Fishkin, Carlisle Country Club.
All right.
And I'm Bob Marek, Carlisle Country Club and West Shore Country Club.
Hrip, former Carlisle Country Club.
Charlie Stringfellow, Carlisle Country Club all my life.
All right. Well, so Charlie, I think, pretty much kind of focusing on you today. So where were you born and brought up?
I was born right here in Carlisle, 1938. And I've been here, with the exception of 4 years in the Air Force, all my life.
All right. And I was reading an article that said you kind of got started at golf at the Carlisle Country Club.
I did. I got started basically as a caddy, as most of us did back in those days, make a few bucks. And I got associated with a good member who took me under his wing. And we spent a lot of weekends together, hitting balls, caddying, et cetera, et cetera.
What was that member's name?
Mr. Sam Wiener.
Okay.
He was he's from Hanover, Pennsylvania, but he worked during the week on Wall Street.
And how old were you when you started caddying?
I'd say 14 years old.
Now, was that the experience of most of you guys here?
I caddied probably starting in 12 years old, but that was in Chicago.
Okay.
And I caddied all the way up into college. So it was 5-6 years of caddying all summer long.
And I probably caddied when I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old and then started playing.
I'm from Butler, Pennsylvania, out west, western part of Pennsylvania. I started playing golf when I was 12. My dad worked for Armco Steel Corporation, and they bought a golf course for the use of the employees, and that's how I got started, else I never probably would have been playing golf, to tell you the truth. And as a young kid, I caddied some, and then I worked in the pro shop at Carlisle Country Club for a couple years. I think I started at 16 working there. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Mr. Wiener. Was that your main mentor starting out in golf, or did you have others?
No, it certainly was, because if I didn't caddy, I wouldn't have gotten into golf at all. The way for me to make a couple of bucks, I used to spend all my time thumbing a ride down the Harrisburg Pike in order to get a job, and then most of the time one of the members would bring me home. But until I could get enough money set aside and buy my first car.
Now, I saw in one of the captions to one of the photos here that I guess was from the Junior Chamber National Tournament in Fargo, North Dakota, that you lived on 177 Franklin Street?
No, East South Street.
East South Street, okay.
Down in the lower end of the flooded end of Carlisle. Right there, right across from the Lee Shore Spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what made you choose to caddy at the country club?
Well, back then there was nothing else around,
Okay.
and it was as close as I could find. And the people out there, when you're at that age and young and you're energetic, the members really take you under their wings and treat you good. And I never wanted for anything. They paid me, but back then $1.25 a bag, didn't go very well. It went further than what it does now. But that's the reason why I stayed at Carlisle.
I joined Carlisle Country Club in 1980, okay? For the first 20 years, Charlie and Rick would be playing with Jimmy Dolan and Rick Brenner all the time. I used to play with them periodically, but once that kind of split up with people moving around, and it seemed like for 20 years, I played like 5 times a week with Charlie. I mean, I talk all the time, okay? And I know his ears are burning all the time, but yeah, whenever I wanted to play at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, I know Charlie was going to be there, okay? And it's that longevity thing that I think that is stuck with Charlie forever. I mean, just the fact that Carlisle Country Club, 25 24 years, 25 years ago, decided to name their district tournament, and Charles Stringfellow floorball is was kind of recognition of what he's done in the area here in relation to golf. And, he does so many things that he has given back over the years. He, to this day, he's a golf official and does tournaments for the Pennsylvania Golf Association, Philadelphia Golf Association, NCAA, high school events, on and on. He is out there doing this kind of stuff. And every summer, one day a week, he's out there with the Harrisburg District Junior Program. And these are kids that are growing, like this, and this, and trying to give them some sort of direction on where the next hole is and help find balls and just answer questions. And it just kind of speaks to the longevity routine. Specifically, we played the tournament, the state tournament, Pennsylvania State Senior Tournament. It was out of Totter Ridge in Greensburg. And the first day we went out, and we really did really well. Okay, we buried the first 6 holes. We were leading the tournament. It rained like crazy the next day. We were staying in a hotel, and it was pouring down rain. This is before GPS. That's how 2003. I guess if they did have it, right. we didn't have GPS. So we're going through the backwoods, and I mean there are hills, rolling hills. You're out in the country in Greensburg if you're not right downtown. And we're trying to get to the golf course to make our tee time because we were leading the tournament. And if we didn't show, we would have been, DQ'd. And so we're standing out there, 2003, rain coming down. I stop in the middle of the road and flag down somebody driving by. And there weren't many cars driving by, okay, to try and find out how to get to the golf course. Well, I wasn't sure that they weren't going to shoot me. There I am, all by myself, out at, flagging down a car. If you do that today, you might have issues.
Yeah, right.
But we finally figured out how to get to the golf course and just barely made the tee time. We played 2 holes and they called it off, and so we were declared the state champions. Okay. And all the way home, I said, Charlie, that's not right. We didn't play 36 holes. He says, don't worry about it. A win is a win. He said, just always remember, a win is a win.
That's right.
So, that's I can't tell you how many rounds I played with Charlie. I enjoyed almost all of them except when it's been 105 degrees outside.
I was gonna say, I mean, I know Rich here's a longtime partner for you in the floorball tournaments, and you also got some competitors here. So what was it like playing with and against Charlie?
It was tough. We knew they were the premier team all the time, and we were out to beat them every time. And when we went head to head, it was great competition. But like I said to Charlie before, we never ever talked while we played. It was all business. Shook hands afterwards. Great, see you at the next tournament. That was extent, because my partner was not very sociable.
Charlie, I got transferred here from Butler. I worked for United Telephone, which later was part of the Sprint Corporation, and was working out in Butler, and got transferred here in the fall of 1972. And I came in basically knowing nobody around here as a single guy, and ended up joining the country club in the fall of '72, and played. I was not used to playing. I never played in a best ball tournament. In Western Pennsylvania, most of my playing was in the Pittsburgh area, and it was all individual tournaments. And when I joined the club, I don't know, Charlie and I probably got a chance to play a couple times in '73. I know we played, I think, in the individual in 1973 at West Shore. And anyhow, Charlie and I got to play, and he was playing at that time. His permanent partner was Robbie Belden, and Robbie was a very good player, longtime friend of Charlie's.
Wow.
And it wasn't until 1975 in the Nolan Ziegler was our first tournament, best ball tournament at Harrisburg Country Club that Charlie and I played. And we won that tournament in 1975. And after that, I don't know if Charlie knows how many tournaments we won, but we won 27 best ball tournaments from 1975 to 1997. And I know I took like 3 years off there for a while when I had my first child, we were building a house, etc. But I think we won like 8 Nolan Zieglers, 8 Ed Tabors. The Ziegler was played at Country Club of Harrisburg. The Tabor, 8 of those was played at West Shore. We won 5 Stringfellow events at Carlisle. We won 3 Norm Sheasley's, which is at Blue Mountain Golf Club, which is now...
It's nothing.
It's
Felicia
nothing.
to that.
Yeah. And then we won one George Morris at Colonial, one Sullivan at Lebanon Country Club, and then we won the Hershey Invitational one time. And the Hershey Invitational was really...
That was the best.
That was a big deal.
That was like playing on the tour there.
Yeah,
Everybody was better than you were there.
Yeah, that was a big deal. We won that in 1977.
Wow.
In fact, I think 1977 was our best year together. We won the Sullivan, the Tabor, the Ziegler, and the Sullivan, and the Hershey Invitational.
Wow.
So it was 4 tournaments.
Big.
And the Invitational was big. The Hershey Invitational had guys like Jay Siegel, who U.S. amateur champ. He won the British champ. Buddy Marucci was his partner.
Bucky Earhart.
Bucky, yeah, and Buddy Marucci was runner-up in the United States amateur to Tiger Woods back in the 90s. But anyhow, it was a strong field. It was not a local field. It was basically guys from the East Coast.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think we were the only Central Pennsylvania team.
Boeheim played in it. Jimmy Boeheim played in the Hershey Invitational.
Okay. I think we were the only Central Pennsylvania team to ever win the Hershey Invitational. Charlie was really very easy to play with, very mild-mannered, never got upset. I can't remember Charlie and I ever having any bad words to one another. I mean, I think when we played bad individually, you felt worse for the other guy than you did for yourself.
Sure.
You're letting the other guy down. And he was so easy to play with. He always was the guy who let us off. Charlie was always down the middle of the fairway, on the green, and I could play a little bit more aggressive, playing second, and he would always tee off first. And we really had a wonderful partnership. It was special for
It was tough for us to get mad at each other. We never talked.
We use hand
we
signals.
we had hand symbols that we used on clubs that we were hitting and whatever, and we purposely tried not to give any kind of advantage to our
Yes.
our opponents. And Mark and his partner, Dr. Panko, were really tough competitors. We played with Mark Fishkin and Dr. Panko many times. And they were tough matches.
And we never talked.
And
We
it
just
was-
played.
Yeah, but we were always friends. I mean, Mark was always, he was always the nice guy in the team. Dr. Panko was a little bit more difficult at times, but and I'm being fair, he was
Yes,
at times.
yes.
But he was a hell of a player.
Yes, he was.
He was really a tough player. Mark was a tough player, but it was a treat to play with Charlie. It was easy playing with Charlie. Not having any best ball experience, he made it very easy.
You guys won a lot. Charlie, you have any idea how many you won total? Because you played with a lot of different people over the years.
I've been very fortunate to join up with good players, good people, and I'm somewhere between 50 and 60 tournaments. Wow! With everything that I've, and I can say, the pro at the Carlisle Country Club one day made a statement. I overheard him. He says, "Charlie, you're either damn good or you're good at picking partners. I'm not sure which." I said, "Either way, I don't care." But the people that I played with were just outstanding, and they were friends.
Now, Rich mentioned that your approach was, I mean, were you kind of more conservative, hitting it down the middle so your partner could be more aggressive, or was that just how you approached everything? Was your goal was just to get on the fairway and get you off to a good start?
My game was basically driving and arriving, but Rick was very good with the putter. He's probably the best putter that I've ever played with. And I mean, I've seen him make 7, 8 putts in a row, different holes.
So have I.
You know, I can stand back and I try to stay in the game. I try to make the pars, and every once in a while I'll make a birdie or two. But he was very good at getting the ball in the hole quick, and it made a good combination. Today you see a lot of good players out there playing in the tournaments that can't win because they're both good, but they just don't mesh.
Absolutely right.
And that was the secret between Rick and I. I mean, I didn't have to ask him what he's doing. I didn't ask him or tell him what to do. We just did it, and it worked out good. And, you know, going back to winning the tournaments, I tried to recollect the best I could, but I think I played with 13 different partners.
Wow.
Over the years, and won tournaments with 13 different partners. And so it's really been a pleasure to play with these guys, and I wouldn't give it up for nothing.
Well, I'm wondering, how did you develop your approach? I know you played at the Carlisle High School. Was that sort of your first experience playing as part of a team or with other people?
Oh, sure it was. Yes, I went to Carlisle High School and I played my last 2 years there. We had pretty good teams. We didn't always win, but we had good teams. And then whenever I graduated, it seemed like golf sort of went by the wayside. Money-wise, no one wanted to take it over. So it took quite a few years before Carlisle eventually got back to having a golf team, and which they still have.
Well, because I know then you went on to join, was it the Air Force?
I went into the Air Force in 1957. I stopped playing golf because they sent me to Korea, and there was no golf over there. So I was in Korea for about a year and a half. I came back. I was lucky to get stationed in Sacramento. Then I started playing golf again. I was lucky enough to secure a place on the All Air Force team, and then we played in the All Service tournament in California. And then I sort of got the bug. Whenever I got discharged, come back, I said, well, I'm going to rejoin the Carlisle Country Club. That was back in 1961, and I've been a member since.
Because I know two of those photos on the table there are, I'm assuming you're in the photo because you won the 61 Spring and the club championship as well. Is that right?
In 61?
Yeah.
I may have, I don't know, the dates sort of, but,
You've won too much.
no, I've been very fortunate, I've only won the Carlisle Country Club championship a couple of times. I was lucky enough to win the district championship a couple of times, Harrisburg Open once, and then of course, like Rick was alluding to, we hooked up and things sort of went. And then whenever he couldn't play, I found somebody else.
Now, do most of you guys prefer playing individually or at best ball or as part of a scramble or a team or
No scramble.
no scramble?
I think as you're younger, you probably enjoy the individual tournaments.
Absolutely.
Once you start getting a few years on it, your game kind of doesn't stand up to that individual thing a little bit, and you look for somebody to help you out a lot. And so I think as you get older, you tend to want to play, and at least I do, in best ball tournaments where you have more than one chance at a hole.
And the schedule was such here.
It was all basketball.
I know when I first moved here, and even up until recent, I mean, there was only two really good individual tournaments. It was the Harrisburg Individual and the Jay Kitling in
right.
Memorial. That was it. So if you wanted to play tournament golf, the majority of the tournaments were best ball tournaments. And so it was, I mean, there's a lot of best ball tournaments. That was really, really popular and still popular.
You could find a best ball tournament every single weekend within like a 40-mile radius if you wanted to play every weekend.
Yeah.
Right, and now they're getting more, there's more individual tournaments right now. They probably have one or two, Greg up with that Harrisburg district, they have a one-day job, maybe at Range End, a couple other places, and there's more individual tournaments around.
Do you know how many guys are playing in those things?
Not many.
Yeah.
I see the tee sheets a lot of times, there can be 24, 30 players, that's all they're getting for that.
You can find that for the Harrisburg District individual too.
Yeah, I stopped playing that stuff years ago too.
But like you say, well, the weekends are completely filled up. I mean, you'd go somewhere every weekend. A lot of the public golfers, we call them, they don't belong to a country club. They don't have to join a country club because there is a tournament going on every week.
That's right.
And they said, why join? We can play a different course, move around. And there's some good players out there.
But back in the day, the reason why some of the tournaments were so good, because if you didn't belong to a club, you couldn't play. Like at West Shore, if we didn't belong to Carlisle or Blue Ridge, we couldn't play at West Shore or Harrisburg Country Club or wherever.
Yeah.
But now everything's open. I guess everything. West Shore's open, right, to anybody?
Yes, they are.
Is West Shore open?
Everything opened up then.
Yeah.
Before it was exclusive, now it's not. Everything opened up.
It was amazing back in the day, I'm talking about in the 70s and 80s,
Right.
back in our day.
Right.
I mean, the tournaments were so successful, and they were hard to get into. I mean, if you didn't get your entry in within 2 days of when a tournament opened up,
There were waiting lists then.
there's a
You
waiting
get
list.
in.
I mean, and we're talking about, what, how many teams? 100 teams?
Yeah.
96? 96, yeah,
Right.
96 teams?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's 96 times, that's 192 players.
Yeah.
And but it was amazing. I can remember going, like, the table would be very difficult at West Shore to get into. Driving to
That's right.
to West Shore.
First day of the entry, you gotta drop it
to
off.
make sure you got in the tournament.
Yeah.
And,
You didn't want to mail because you weren't going to get in.
but now, I don't think it's that kind of, I don't think that, and it was like, there used to be a lot of people that would hang around, that would watch the tournaments, especially the leaders, and
Yeah, always.
there'd be a lot of people. Now,
Now nobody even knows who's playing where, or what's going
Yeah.
on, or who even won.
and it was, the Patriot News and the Sentinel really
Right.
covered golf big back in
And the
the day.
local TV stations had
Yeah.
coverage all the time.
Right.
They'd have a photographer out filming what the big tournament, the championship flight for the last couple of holes.
Channel 27 covered the Gitlin.
Yes,
Yeah, they
especially when it was on TV then.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, it's, there's probably, back in those days, golf, if you played golf, was maybe all you did, and the kids, and now it's just, there's so much going on, I think golf
Soccer,
is.
lacrosse,
Yeah.
whatever for the kids and all that. We didn't have that growing up. No.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, what are some of your favorite memories in playing some of these tournaments?
Winning.
What?
Winning.
Trying to beat them.
Well, were there any particular, any tournaments that you remember that came down to the last hole? Or?
Yeah, I got one. In the, I don't know what year it was, but in the Stringfellow, Charlie and I were partners, and we were coming down to the last couple of holes, and Scotty Cole
Oh, yeah.
was a member at Carlisle, and Scotty was maybe in college at that time,
I would think so, yeah.
and he would just beat it. He was really very long off the tee, and I can't remember who Scotty's partner was.
Rick Kunkel.
Rick Kunkel, was that it?
Who became pro.
Okay, who was, yeah,
Eventually.
who became the pro. But I can remember coming down 18, Charlie and I had a two-stroke lead. This is a 54-hole tournament coming in the last day, and number 18 is a par 5 hole. And in those days, to reach 18 in 2 shots was a big deal. We're talking about not the metal woods, we're talking about a persimmon
That's
wood
right.
head.
And the ball that doesn't go
It's
as
a lot
far.
of ball that if you hit it 250 yards.
That's right.
That was a big tee shot.
That's right.
So when you come to hole, it's 550 yards on 18, it's like, it's a lot tougher than it is today because the ball goes forever now and whatever. But yeah, we got a 2-shot lead coming into 18. Scotty Cole beats a drive, I remember. Charlie and I think, hit the fairway, and Rick Kunkel, I think, was in the fairway. Anyhow, we hit our second shots, I don't know, 100 yards short of the green. And Scotty Cole hits this unbelievable shot, knocks it on in 2, and he's probably got 25 feet for birdie. For eagle, not for birdie, for eagle to make a 3. And Charlie and I both knock on the green, and we're probably, I don't know, 30 feet away, 35 feet away. Or no.
We knocked it inside.
We knocked it inside of Scotty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm losing track. Anyhow, Scotty makes this unbelievable 25-foot putt, 30-foot putt for an eagle. So all of a sudden, we're tied. And I putted first, and I missed mine. Charlie's up. I remember the pin was in, I think, the right front. Charlie's on that back right. And he's coming down, and it's just a real speedy putt, and he's got some break in it. And darn it, and we had a lot of people following us because it was Carlisle group in the last, and there must have been at least 100, 200 people watching us. Charlie rolls this putt in, and the roar goes up. It was like, I can still remember, it was just an unbelievable putt. It was a great putt.
To win by one shot?
To win by one shot, and Scotty makes this unbelievable eagle, and then Charlie knocks it in on top of him with a putt that he could probably hit 100 times and he's probably not going to make it. And they just drilled it right in the middle.
I've been there before.
Anyhow, it was a great finish. It was really a storybook finish. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was one that I remember.
Well, I was going to say, I know the Sentinel doesn't cover golf as much, but I did find that I think in 2013 you hit a hole-in-one on the 17th. So was that better, or?
No.
You hit a hole-in-one. 17th.
That's when he couldn't find his glove. He couldn't find his glove on the next tee.
Yeah, that was, what year did you say it was?
I thought it was 2013, but I might have my dates wrong. It says Hrip.
I did make a hole-in-one on 17, and I think we had a pretty tight match, and then we got up by 2 shots. But I'm looking at stuff that Charlie did, not that I did. So.
You had a hole-in-one in competition in the best ball tournament.
I had 3 of them with Charlie
In best ball tournaments.
At the Hershey Invitational on number 12.
Harrisburg.
And Harrisburg, number 6 on 6. And I'll tell you what, do you remember that?
I do remember, yeah.
Channel 27 came out with their TV guys. They set it up on 6 as we're coming to the tee. And it's the last round of the Ziegler. I don't know what year it was. We were leading the tournament. And Charlie hits, and then I hit. I knocked the ball in the hole for a hole-in-one. They have it captured on ABC 27 News. Before you even got the green, the guy rolls up his camera. He's all there. He's got what he needed.
No kidding.
And then
I never knew that.
Yeah, and then I made one on 17 with Charlie. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was 3 times when we played together that.
That's awesome.
But the one at Nolan Ziegler on number 6 at Harrisburg Country Club that was pretty funny with the TV guy just coming there. And,
Wow.
I mean,
How
what's
many
that?
hole-in-ones do you have, Charlie?
I've had 8.
Wow. How about you?
5.
I have 6.
6?
3 at Blue Ridge and 3 at Colonial.
But he's got 2 double eagles.
I've never had a double eagle. Never.
I've seen the one, I didn't see the
I've
other.
never had a double eagle. Now I have no chance to even make an eagle unless I fly one in the hole somewhere. Can't reach it in par 5s and 2. Wow. 8 hole-in-ones. That's awesome.
That is a lot. Yeah,
It's been a while.
How many you have, Bob? You had
I have 6.
6?
I'm 6. And
Do you realize how many people go their whole lifetime with never having a hole-in-one and they're good players?
Right.
A lot.
Right.
Chip's never had one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Chip's number 1. Chip Richter.
Chip's never had a hole-in-one.
No.
Chip was the pro at Carlisle for,
Yeah.
what, 20 years?
Yep.
So,
Wow.
It's
Interesting.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You got people out there that can't break 100.
And they'll make a hole-in-one.
Hole-in-one.
Right.
yeah.
Shows you how much luck is involved.
Wow.
What was it like hitting your first hole-in-one, Charlie?
The first hole-in-one was back in high school.
Was it?
Yeah, I remember it was on the 17th hole. I played with a kid from Harrisburg. Oh, it's a great thrill. And an old friend of ours, he said one day, he says, "What's a hole-in-one?" He said, "That's nothing." He said, "I get more of a kick out of shooting a turkey." Oh, Russ Lackey.
Oh, Russ, yeah, wow.
Yeah, what a character he
I remember
was.
Russ, yeah.
Yeah. And then, when you have them, they're not always pretty. A lot of the times you miss-hit the ball a little bit, it hits the bank, or
Sure.
you skinnies it up
Absolutely.
there. Then when you do have a good one, then you're really proud.
My first hole went at Hershey Country Club on 12, I hit the shot thin. You know, it hit the fringe
Yeah.
and skipped to the back of the, you know, and went in the hole.
That's the old 18th hole there.
No, oh, yeah,
Up along the road.
yep, along the road, yep.
Yeah.
And in those days, that was back in the 70s, I don't know when.
Yeah.
They gave me one of those big super duper Hershey
Really?
chocolate bars, yeah. But, yeah, that was the,
Now we have hole-in-one clubs where you put $20 in, at least in Colonial, and if you get a hole-in-one, everybody who's entered, basically, there's $700 in the pot. $350 goes to pay for the booze for everybody to buy drinks, and the other $350 is for pro shop credit. And every time somebody makes a hole-in-one, you get charged in your account another $20.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah. Otherwise, it can be expensive. I had a hole-in-one on St. Patty's Day. And they didn't have any of that.
Too
My
smart.
God. Oh, did I get cleaned out that day? I'll have another one. Enough's enough already. Yeah, that was the worst time I ever had one. Yeah.
Well, Charlie, are there any moments, maybe aside from the one that Rick mentioned, that stand out to you?
The one that I can't forget, I was playing in the Ziegler with a good friend of mine, Dick Burgoon. This was back before Rick entered the picture. And we were on about the 6th or 7th hole, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call that he was in business. He was in the watercress business, and he had some fields out there. He had some people working. And they decided that they didn't like the way the job was going, and they started chasing each other around with these knives that they dig the watercress with. He went in there and got on the phone. I said, "Go ahead, I'll take care of it." So I played 7, 8, 9. He come back out and he said, "I'm still on the phone. How you doing?" I said, "Well, I didn't make any bogeys." I said, "Go ahead, take care of it." So he goes back in the shop, into the building, and makes the phone call. He finally got it straightened out, and he joined me on 11. He said, "I'm sorry about that." He said, "Well, I just had to take care of that. Somebody's going to kill it. They're going to kill each other out there." But
Wow.
I just remember that because it was you know, he felt bad about leaving me, and
You were all alone for 4
I was
holes?
on for 4 hours.
Is he still alive now?
Yes, he is. He's alive. He's living in Florida.
He's gonna be like 88, right?
No, he's a year older than me.
He's 84. 80-something.
He's 83 or 84, yeah. He's
Yeah,
one
because you're
class.
10 years old, I'm 74, so you're 84.
He was in one class ahead of me.
Okay.
He and Billy Davison were in the same class together.
Because Warren played with Burgoon all the time.
Warren was a little bit older.
Yeah.
He was a little bit older. I don't know what his age was, but he was a couple years
But
older.
Warren played with Burgoon, I know, in the Moors.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I remember them.
Because Aileen's 89 and Warren would have been 88. She was a year ahead of him. Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Tell the story of Warren's dad, Jake. He come out to they were playing the Morris tournament. There was a good Calcutta going at that time. And he come out and he says, "How's my boy doing?" And somebody says, "Well, Warren's doing pretty good." Jake says, "I'm not talking about Warren, I'm talking about my boy, Dick." So I want to know how Dick's doing. He's the one that's carrying the team.
Oh, wow.
No, what he said was, he said, Warren's my son, Dick's my boy.
I can hear Jake saying that too. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this might be sort of, were there any disappointments that you had playing, aside from not winning, or probably related?
No, I tell you, kids today, they don't know what they're missing when they're playing baseball. You know, instead of playing golf. Golf you can play basically till you die.
You're right.
And as long as you can get up and move around, you can play. These other sports, and I can see why they play them, because all your buddies are playing. But take up golf. Get into golf, because not only will it it's not only good exercise, but you'll be able to use it in life down the road somewhere.
You don't know how many deals are signed on the golf course.
Tell me about it.
In the
For me,
business world.
for me, the best thing is customer
Today
golf
with-
all the time.
with
That's why I got
phone
all new
systems,
accounts all the time.
Everybody's wheeling and dealing on the golf course.
Sure, absolutely right.
You can't do that in a baseball diamond.
No.
Or a football, you know, so.
Yeah, I'm a runner, so it's probably hard to make a deal when you're out.
Yeah, whenever I was coaching in Northern there for about 8, 9 years, we had a pizza party after one season. And the parents come up to me and says, what would you tell my kid to do, you know, to get ready for next year? I said, well, first thing I'd tell you is stop spending $500 on a big Bertha golf club and take that $500 and cut it into little pieces and get them some lessons.
Yep.
Teach them how to grow up with the game, teach them how to get the good grip, how you know. So many of them, they think because you go out there and have the best golf.
Trying to buy the game.
These kids today, they all have equipment out there that we never thought about having as growing up.
Yeah.
All this calibration stuff, the simulators.
It's just amazing what they can do.
Everything with TrackMan now to do everything. Remember, Rick, when we were in college, I'm sure for you, we didn't even have lob wedges back then.
No, I
56 or a 54 was the best. If you had to play a flop shot or something, I guess you laid it, or you didn't even, I probably didn't even learn how to play a flop shot then.
talking about that, I'm going back to high school. I had won the Western Pennsylvania High School Championship at Carlisle Country Club. Wow. And that was 36 holes. And the only club I had was a 9-iron. So everything that I had to, when I get in the
You
sand
stayed
trap.
out of the sand trap.
I was in the sand traps.
You had to
But I
improvise.
opened that thing up, you know, as wide as I can. But I never had
No.
a wedge until I got into college.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, but I think that probably helped you learn shots, to finesse shots
Absolutely.
that kids don't
No.
do now. It's more just bang it, bang it, bang
That's
it.
it.
Yeah.
Stay on the left side of the tee, aim down the right, and whale it as hard as you can. That's it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, I was reading an article that was written about you in 2000, Charlie, that said that, and that was your advice back then too, was, you know, if you're gonna get into the game, get some lessons before you start.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd tell the kids that today. The kids that I see at our clubs especially have all the opportunities in the world to have lessons, to take lessons, to have the best equipment. You know, and I don't begrudge them at all. My parents, you know, we had nothing growing up. My dad worked on the railroad, and he provided this for us. We had plenty to eat, we had clothes. But these kids today, they have everything at their disposal. They don't have to work. You know, you said,
You're right.
you say, caddying, you know, we bust to get out there and caddy, make $1.50 if we got a good tip. But
Right.
they don't have that opportunity today. We don't use caddies around here at all. You don't find a caddy in job.
Nowhere.
Bobby
Lancaster.
Martin's probably the only caddy that
You're right.
I know.
Yeah, he caddies at Lancaster,
Yeah.
and he
He
carries
caddies
for,
all over.
and he carries for Maori at West Shore.
I was
That's
there
it.
yesterday.
Yeah, because I see him at Mr. Deli, and that's how I know what he's doing. Yeah.
But these kids, they have the best equipment, the best opportunity to play, and the best lessons, and more power to them. More power to them.
Well, so on a somewhat similar note, I mean, I think it was mentioned previously that you used to, I don't know if you're still doing a lot of officiating and working, I don't know, are you still working with charities and?
Most of the officiating we do now is like Bob said, is with the USGA or the Philadelphia Golf Association, and the kids, the kids in the Harrisburg area. Yeah, I do. In fact, just in the last week, I spent 4 days up in Rochester with the NCAA Division II. And then last week we had another tournament at Carlisle, Mondays and Tuesdays. Yeah, and at times it gets a little hectic, but it's something I enjoy doing. And these two gentlemen here, they do some of their own. I'm sure they do it because they enjoy doing it. Yeah. And we feel like, we've played golf, we've had our better days, try to give something back to the sport.
Yeah, that's important too. Yeah, when you're a young person, you don't, at least I didn't think as much back then when you're so involved in playing golf tournaments, you don't think about the people that are donating their time, working to make these tournaments successful, and just all the volunteer time that they gave up. And then as you get older and maybe a little smarter and understand things a little bit better, it's like, geez, I need to give stuff back to the game. So, like Charlie, I was on the executive committee of the Pennsylvania Golf Association for 6 years, and then I've been officiating for the Pennsylvania Golf Association and the Golf Association of Philadelphia. They basically oversee a lot of the local United States Golf Association events in central Pennsylvania. So I've been doing that along with, we do a little bit of college in the fall with the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, and there's a couple of high school tournaments that I participate in. I know Charlie does a lot more with the juniors and some stuff that I haven't been doing as much, but yeah. And then even as a young guy though, I started the Harrisburg District Junior League back in 1977, and that's taken off. It's it's been handled by a lot of different guys over the years, but you just you have to stop and think about all the good things that people did for you as you were coming up, and now it's time maybe to give back some stuff. And when you have that opportunity, I think it's important, and I'm sure all these guys recognize that, and that's why they're involved with volunteering. So yeah, it's very important. So, but as soon as old guys like us start fading away, there's not a lot of younger volunteers, and it's probably because the younger people are so involved with their families and whatever. So we are all retired and maybe have more time than most people, but I think there's going to be a problem within the next 5 to 10 years about officiating local tournaments, because
I think you're right.
most of us are in our 70s and 80s, so we need some younger people. But
Well, don't you think it's different, like when I grew up, the big thing was to join a country club. Your parents would drop you off there, you'd be there the whole weekend.
Right.
Now I don't feel that's the thing.
No.
There's soccer and everything else that
Right.
the young people now don't want to join a club. If anything, they want it for a pool and a pool only, but they're not interested in playing golf because they got too many other duties to take care of until the kids grow up.
yeah,
Now, is that how you became associated with officiating some of this stuff? Is through your clubs or the country clubs, or was that separate from?
it was right through the Pennsylvania Golf Association runs tournaments all over the state.
Okay.
And then they have tournaments here in central Pennsylvania. So usually the guys in central Pennsylvania will run tournaments that live here. Now, when I was on the executive committee for the Pennsylvania Golf, I'd go out to Pittsburgh sometime and do some officiating of tournaments there, or other places, Williamsport, I remember. I don't think I ever went into Philadelphia, but it's mostly, they have, regions of the Pennsylvania Golf, the central, western, and eastern. And
We've been lucky to have some USGA rules officials in this area. Joe Green.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Pete Richter,
Jimmy Parsons.
Jimmy Parsons. They're really USGA officials and
Right.
travel around the country doing all the USGA big events. They part of their deal is to put together teams and get them trained up so that they can handle all the regional stuff that has to be done. We've been lucky here in Central because we've had like three people that are really involved and see that we go to seminars and pay for it you know, here are the books, read them. You know, some of the local guys put together, you know, sessions where they go in and actually study the rules and give quizzes. So those guys are kind of like you know, the centralized point to make all this volunteerism from a rules official point, very good experience here in this area. And I don't think all the areas have that. You know,
I think you're right. I think the western part they need help.
yeah, and you know, if we look at the number of volunteers that do the officiating now versus 10 years ago, there are only about half of the people that are still around doing it. You know, like Rick was saying, we need younger volunteers and in order to keep it going, because we're known for running really good tournaments when the Pennsylvania Golf Association come in and the USGA people come in. They do a good job. We do a good job because of those guys and the training they give us.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if the recruitment was from the country clubs, or wherever the tournament is being held, if you're pulling from those members or whatnot. So that's why I asked that question.
There's probably, what?
Sounds like my wife.
Spam.
There's probably, 10 to 12 guys that are core guys probably in Central PA for officiating, for volunteering. Probably 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And most of them, at one time or another, come out of Carlisle Country
Right,
Club.
Carlisle probably has the
You know,
most.
it seems like that's been, well, Joe and Jim, both from Carlisle, and they just more or less go out and grab a hold of us and bring us in, but.
Because I can only remember from Colonial, Ray Bowl was the only one.
Yeah.
Al Ray Bowl was,
Yeah.
I think, the only one out of Colonial.
Yeah. It was.
Well, speaking of tournaments and the Carlisle Country Club, I'm wondering, how did the Stringfellow get started?
Started by, we had a 4-ball tournament going on out there for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And our club president, Mr. Reed Ernest, went to one of the meetings and he said, you know, we gotta give a name to the tournament rather than just a Carlisle 4-ball. And Rick and I, we were having a lot of success, and he decided to leave the area, so I guess I got the nod at the time. But he suggested we use my name, which I'm very thankful for, really. But that's how it got started.
I was on the board at that time and went for board approval, and there was, you know, half a second unanimous decision, yes, let's rename it the Stringfellow 4-ball. Okay, I mean, it was just bam, 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 it was a done deal.
Because most of the best ball tournaments had names associated, like the Nolan Ziegler at the Country Club of Harrisburg. Nolan Ziegler was the former mayor.
Mayor of Harrisburg, right.
George Morris at Colonial, wasn't he like a superintendent?
Right.
Superintendent at Colonial Country
Who was
Club.
Norm Sheasley?
Norm Sheasley, I don't
He was a
know.
mayor or something.
I'm not sure.
Was he?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And I don't know, like in Lebanon, they had the Sullivan, and still have the Sullivan.
I don't know who
I'm not sure who
Sullivan
that
is.
was named after, but I'm sure it was some
Yeah.
prominent person. So the Carlisle, just being Carlisle, I think to be up with all the other tournaments, let's put a name to it, and who better than Charlie?
I mean, guys come back from Florida and say, "Oh, you're still alive. Why don't they name the tournament after you?" Now, you don't have to be dead.
Were there any other pros or instructors at Carlisle that stood out to you over the years, or?
We were fortunate. We had some good pros at Carlisle. Had a couple of not so good, but yeah, Cameron Dunn was there for quite a few years. He was, at one time, Cameron was the superintendent for the golf course and also the golf pro. And as the club got bigger, more members, more active, they finally asked him to make a choice. Do you want to be the superintendent or do you want to be the golf pro? And he took the golf pro's job because he was getting up in age. And And before him, Ken Rutherford was our golf pro, and he was a very good golf pro. And we've had a couple, Jack Helms was in there, we've had a couple in there that only with us a couple of years. But Ken Rutherford and Cameron and
Rick Kunkel was a pro and he was a member. How long was Rick a pro there? You guys remember?
Nope.
yeah,
I can't remember.
Was Ken Rutherford out of Lebanon? Was there?
he went to Lebanon.
Was there an Ann Rutherford?
That was his daughter.
Okay, I
And
remember
it's
that.
his granddaughter. That was, well, Ann was an official with the USGA.
Okay.
And then her daughter was very big in the USGA officiating.
Huh.
Well, I was reading you played on the Carlisle High School team with Dan, right?
I did. I caddied for a couple of years, and I played. Yeah.
Because there was a story, I think, in the same Sentinel art that was mentioning that she was the first female athlete to play on a men's team at Carlisle. And then I think she was the first female athlete at Penn State as well.
And she was a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did very well in the Harrisburg area. Her and Sullivan, a gal by the name of Sullivan, who eventually, her and her husband went and established the LPGA tournament at Hershey.
Cynthia Sullivan.
Cynthia Sullivan.
Dick Ancelot.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And they competed quite a bit. You know, they were always going after each other.
Where did Cynthia Sullivan play out of?
Harrisburg.
Oh, she did? Okay. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, Ann was she was a very good player. Very good player.
And I saw she moved to New Jersey after that, so
Yes.
probably weren't competing against her too much then.
No, I didn't know where she moved to, but her dad was a pro at Carlisle, and he took the job at Carlisle Country Club. And
And then did Swish take over for him?
I would think so, yes. I don't know of anybody else that was in there.
I don't either. Wow.
Cameron's brother, Bob Dunn.
Was Blue Ridge. Then his son Jimmy Dunn took over there then.
The golf pros have a habit of flopping around, but in this area, if you had a good job, you kept that job. They didn't look for something else. And we had some good Phil Bankert at Colonial.
Right.
Phil was a good player. He was
Really
probably
good.
the best player in the bunch.
Absolutely. He made it to the U.S. Open where in San Francisco, right?
I'm not sure where, but I know he made it, yeah.
Olympic. No, where's Olympic?
That's what
San Francisco.
Yeah, he qualified to play out there.
Yeah.
He was really good. He was probably the best in the whole area.
I think so.
Yeah.
During that time.
Yeah.
Another question I have here is, what would your dream foursome be?
You know, I've got that question. Jim gave me a copy of it,
Yeah.
and I couldn't answer it. That's the only question on that whole sheet I couldn't answer.
What do you want, Bill Arnie?
I'd love to play with Arnie, but I wasn't sure whether we're talking about people that are good you go out and play with now, or if you go back, sure, Nicholas and Palmer, I would have loved to play with them.
Hogan?
But no, he's a pain in the rear. Hogan's a pain in the rear. I didn't like him. Steve was another one, you know. All they thought about was themselves. They used to take so advantage of the members. But Nicholas and Palmer. But then I got to thinking, people that I miss right now, like Lenny Levin,
Yeah,
Skip Glenn,
yeah,
you know, Robbie Belden,
right.
all former members of Carlisle Country Club that I played a ton of golf with. Those are the people that I really miss. And so I don't know, there may be two answers to that question.
Well, along those lines, I guess there's a couple of different ways I want to go, but the question I'll ask right now is, who are some of those Carlisle Country members that stand out to you that you have fond memories of?
Well, I just named a couple of them.
Yeah.
These were old, and Bill Davidson,
Sure.
You know, Bill and I went to school together. They were good people. They were good people and loved the game of golf. I mean, they would play every day if they had the opportunity.
Were you a little bit more talkative when you were just out on the golf course and not competing?
Not really. Not really. One thing that does bother me out there is someone who talks too much. You know, or their cell phones.
I never bring a cell phone in, of course. We had a lot of
My other
fun.
half says, I tried to call you. I said, well, then my car didn't pick up my phone call, did it? That's where my phone is. It's in the glove box in the car.
Charlie, I can remember as far as hearing things, Charlie had this unbelievable knack of little noises bother Charlie. Really. I mean, I bet I've played with Charlie 25 times, maybe 50 times. And he's the only guy I know that could get up to the top of his backswing and he's like ready to start and all of a sudden something bothers him and he like drops.
Okay.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, when I would get up there, it's like, it's go. That's it. Charlie, if he heard a little noise or something, it was unbelievable how many times you think he's coming, and he just, I mean, it's unbelievable how he did it. Oh, it's impossible, I could never do it. But he did it a lot of times, just the little things would bother him.
Like upstairs gave me good ears.
What, like somebody taking their glove off with the Velcro, you could hear that?
We had a few people that used to do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Hrip.
Yeah, right.
But it was, I mean, he was amazing, it just collapsed in the club, and it's like, I don't know how he did that, but he did that a lot. He did that a lot, so, yeah, he was, the little noises that maybe nobody else in the world would hear, Charlie would pick it up, and it would bother him, yeah, right?
I couldn't keep the cotton in my ear. It kept falling
And the
out.
greatest eyes in the world. I mean, I always wore sunglasses that they were prescription, and Charlie could see ball, you know, like 250 yards down and going into the woods at a certain tree, and he always knew where it was, and you know, nobody else could see it. But even today, to this day, his eyes
I've
are
been blessed with that.
his eyes are unbelievable. He would see balls and things that most people would not. So
I still don't see anything.
but he's been blessed with a great hearing and great eyes. I'll tell you that.
So when you're talking about some of these past members and current members, is it more so the camaraderie after the round of golf then?
I would say that's a lot of it, yeah. It was always a good point to, you know, get done and let's go inside and we'll have a drink, you know.
Yeah.
We go in there and drink our iced tea, most of us.
Right.
Every once in a while we had a guy that liked them, you know, having a beer.
But back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't go in the clubhouse. Behind the 18th green at Carlisle Country Club, we had
The snack bar.
these big pine trees that provided some nice shade, and had a nice snack bar. The pool was there.
Yeah.
And all the tables, a lot of the tables were outside, and there was a lot of chatter, you know, after the round. We had some guys that were great storytellers, and I mean, just have you laughing. And in fact, the guys coming on the 18th green, we were only from, you know, 20 yards from the 18th green, and at most, maybe 15. And, you know, the noise got very loud.
You could hear everything.
Yeah, and when you got on the 18th green with all the noise and the laughter in the background from the guys just sitting around having a drink or whatever and telling stories, it got pretty hectic and pretty funny at times. Yeah.
We used to like to bust on each other.
Oh, yeah. So
Once the round's over with.
So once the round is over, there was a lot of great storytelling and a lot of fun, and yeah.
Well, you mentioned the snack bars used to be on the 18th or near the 18th green. Or were there any other changes that have been made over the years to the Carlisle Country Club course? Or
Yeah, we've made a few changes. We've holes 2, 3, 7, 10. Basically, we've changed the greens. Either we improved them. The clubhouse was remodeled since I've been there, and a couple different swimming pools. We had some big trees down there by the pool, which we knocked down. And we have a tendency to knock too many trees down at our club, in my opinion. But, yeah, nothing really drastic to the course. We've got problems down along the creek with, just last week we had, it flooded over. So it knocked our 3 holes out of commission. We couldn't use them. 4 or 5 days. They're beautiful. They're ready to go. I've played on them since. Have you?
No, I haven't.
You haven't been down. Yeah, they're really nice.
Amazing.
The fairways are beautiful. And we changed our grass on the golf course. We went from bluegrass to bent grass. And we've done what we've had to do to survive, you know, and make it better without anything drastic.
So for the most part, it's still the same course that you've been playing on since 61 and even earlier?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No.
So you're probably pretty familiar with it then?
Well, you would certainly think so, but it doesn't show in my game anymore. But yeah, and we've done, like I said, most of the stuff we've done, we've enlarged those greens that I just mentioned. And, but I hate to see us lose it, you know, at one point last year, they were talking about selling, and we sort of put the kibosh to that. Our membership is thriving right now. We're doing well with members. So everything looks good. Everything looks good.
Well, those are the questions that I have here. Actually, aside from one that Rick asked me to throw in here, what would you consider your greatest accomplishment in golf, Charlie? It's a hard question.
That's a tough question.
Maybe it's just the fact that you're still playing.
That was definitely that, yeah. The fact that I can still get out and play, even though I say I don't play as well anymore. But yeah, if I were to lose that, and the fact that, you know, my friends are out there playing, or, you know, you make so many acquaintances out there on the golf course. And no matter where you go, I mean, you can go downtown to a restaurant, or you can go almost anywhere in this area. You're going to run into somebody, you know, that you've had an acquaintance with over the years.
Well, I'm just, you know, thinking, you know, 8 holes in one, 50 plus tournaments won. I mean, it's pretty impressive all around resume there.
It really is, yeah. I mean, just the breadth of his career to be as competitive. I mean, I can remember Charlie used to keep, and probably maybe you still do, keep scorecards when you shoot your age. And when he was in his 70s, I mean, the scores he was shooting were, I mean, almost on a daily basis, you know, low 70s. I mean, it was just...
How old were you when you first shot your age?
He's got all the cards. I know
68
that.
or 69.
Really?
Yeah.
And I signed all the ones I've played with him too.
Yeah, I've signed a bunch
I signed a lot
too.
of them. He's never even mentioned during his entire process, he is a member of the Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame
Oh, wow.
for this area. Yeah, it's
That's
a pretty select group.
That's the South Central.
The South Central chapter of Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame, and I was inducted into that back in around '97. In fact, I got some pictures out there in the car. I mentioned to Rick, Bill. There's one photograph of myself, and Bill's on one side, Bill Davis is on one side, and Rick's on the other. Thought it was really nice. Yeah, and you know, I was also special alumni of Carlisle High School too. Which, you know,
He gets in all the games free. I don't understand how that happens. He gets all the games free.
that way they keep me coming back. Yeah, and I've been fortunate there. You know, I've kept in touch with the high schools, and it's just.
Everybody knows Charlie. Everybody loves Charlie. He's been a real gentleman. through his whole life.
You guys
And,
are so good, so nice.
He really has been. I mean, he's been, you know, he's well-respected, well-liked, and, like him all, he's just been a gentleman. Right? He's been a great friend.
Good friends, Jimmy.
All said,
Good friends.
all said there, Rick.
What, does anyone else have anything else to add, or questions I should have asked?
There was one about people having trouble with their game that,
Oh, yeah. Well, so, I mean, kind of going back to earlier, we mentioned that, you know, you always recommend people starting out getting lessons. If someone's having trouble with their game, what do you recommend they do?
Well, I recommend them go see the pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, go see the pro. That's what he's there for. He works with people every day and every day. And if he can't diagnose what's going on with your game, well, there's another one down the road somewhere. And some of them are just better than others. Some of them I wouldn't recommend. Some of the pros I wouldn't recommend. But we've been fortunate in this area. Chip Richter, yeah, that's his business.
Chip is really good.
He was our pro for
He really
20
is.
years. Now he went to, he's teaching out of Harrisburg Country Club. But he's a good pro. Mike Swisher is one that I would recommend. And some of the other ones, you know, they're professionals, but I don't think they're good teaching professionals. But there's help out there. And I would definitely, you know, point them in that direction. As much as I play golf, much as Bob plays, and Rick, we don't want to get into the teaching business. You know, if we got a friend, you know, that has maybe one little problem or something, I might, you know, give him some hints, you know. But as far as getting out there and trying to take the business away from the golf pros, no.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming into the Historical Society today and reminiscing and sharing some great stories. I really appreciate it.
I'll tell you what,
It's great.
I appreciate it tremendously, just getting these guys together, because it's tough. You know, they're all busy, they're all doing this and doing that. I haven't seen Mark, I haven't talked to you in 20 years or so.
No, you always yell at me if I play at Carlisle, you're passing through and you're going,
Well, you're holding everybody up.
Well, we can thank Jim for that. He's the one that sort of got everyone's phone number and arranged everything. So thank you, Jim.
we are missing, Jim Parsons was supposed to be here.
Jim's out in Detroit.
Yeah, he couldn't make it. And also, I mentioned earlier, Jeff Frazier was supposed to be here, or wanted to be here, but he's working out of Delaware, so.
Well, you know, when you get guys like this together, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to get everybody.
Yeah, right,
I mean, both the ones you just mentioned, both of them, they both work,
right,
you know?
yep.
And
Well, and I mean, Jim in particular is doing what you guys were mentioning earlier. He's volunteering and,
how long have you been retired?
I don't know, not necessarily volunteering, but he's out there officiating, so.
that's what Jim's doing. He's out there with the NCAA. Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you.
That was great. Thanks.
Thank you.